Emerging markets. Spotlight on India and Mexico. Emerging markets are countries such as China, India, Mexico, and Turkey that, in contrast to already advanced economies, are now experiencing rapid industrialization, modernization, and economic growth. They represent attractive markets and low-cost manufacturing bases, but also high-risk business environments with evolving commercial infrastructure and legal systems. In this segment, we'll take a closer look at two high-profile emerging markets, India and Mexico. India. With a population of 1.2 billion people, India is home to both the world's richest and poorest citizens. Since the early 1990s, India has embarked on an economic liberalization scheme that has proven to be beneficial to the country. Since then, central government intervention, licensing, and regulation have decreased, as have bureaucratic inefficiencies. Despite pressing problems such as significant overpopulation, environmental degradation, extensive poverty, inadequate physical and social infrastructure, and widespread corruption, rapid economic development is fueling India's rise on the world stage. India now boasts a sophisticated industrial and manufacturing base, a rapidly expanding service sector, a huge pool of skilled, low to moderate cost workers, including professional managers, and an established free market system. The service sector alone accounts for more than half of the country's annual economy in terms of gross domestic product, GDP, but employs less than a third of the population. India has capitalized on its large, well-educated, English-speaking workforce to become a major exporter of information technology services and software professionals. Mexico. Home to 111 million people, Mexico has become a regional economic power. In the past 2 decades, Mexico has undergone an impressive process of liberalization, opening of the economy, and macroeconomic stabilization, though foreign debt, poverty, a weak educational system, corruption, and crime remain daunting challenges. Today, the country's economy highlights a sophisticated manufacturing and export base, a fast-growing service sector, a pool of low-cost labor, and continued government support and investment for expanding its economy, all in an effort to establish a solid foundation for sustainable, long-term economic growth. An export-oriented economy, 90% of Mexico's trade comes through its many trade agreements, the most visible of which is the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, with the U.S. and Canada, and accounts for 90% of the country's exports. Common characteristics of emerging markets as seen in India and Mexico. The most distinguishing characteristic of emerging markets is the rapidly improving living standards and a growing middle class with rising economic aspirations. As a result, their attractiveness as destinations for exports, FDI, and sourcing is increasing. Economic prosperity often varies within emerging markets. In these countries, there are usually two parallel economies, those in urban areas and those in rural areas. Urban areas tend to have more developed economic infrastructure and consumers with greater discretionary income in comparison to rural areas. This is certainly valid in both India and Mexico, where the per capita income in the rural areas significantly lags the urban centers. Emerging markets are attractive to internationalizing firms as target markets, manufacturing bases, and sourcing destinations. Roughly a quarter of Mexico's 105 million people enjoy affluence equivalent to that of the middle class in the United States. Businesses in emerging markets are important targets for machinery and equipment sales. In this category, markets are huge for textile machinery in India. Global firms have invested vast sums to develop manufacturing facilities in emerging markets, home to low-wage, high-quality labor for manufacturing and assembly operations. In addition, some emerging markets have large reserves of raw materials and natural resources. For example, Mexico is an important production platform for manufacturing cars and consumer electronics. Emerging markets have served as excellent platforms for sourcing. The most dramatic rise in the Indian economy has come from the business services sector, which includes information technology-enabled services, and business process outsourcing, as companies around the world have turned to India for outsourcing. With its skilled, relatively cheap, and English-speaking professional labor force, India attracts global companies such as Apple, Microsoft, Dell, GE, and IBM, which all reap substantial benefits from their ability to outsource certain technological functions to knowledge workers in India. Firms from other industries, including finance, healthcare, business processes, have many of their programming activities performed in Bangalore or Pune, India. Investments from abroad benefit emerging markets as they lead to new jobs and production capacity, transfer of technology and know-how, and linkages to the global marketplace. Despite the enormous opportunities, there are still some challenges for companies operating in emerging markets. Emerging markets often lack consistent and reliable basic infrastructure. In India, for example, many still do not have access to toilets and sewage treatment systems, resulting in poor sanitation, which gives rise to widespread illness. Also, India's ports, roads, railways, and airports are insufficient to handle the massive volumes of cargo that enter and leave the country every day. As hugely successful as its globally visible information technology services industry is, it only employs 14% of the country's billion-plus population. In contrast, more than 200 million still live on less than $1 per day. It's this kind of disparity that still marks the business landscape. Weak infrastructure still makes it difficult for all of India's industries to experience the kind of exponential growth of the infotech industry. Industrial cities like Bangalore and Pune regularly experience power outages that can last 24 hours or more. And while the government is working to improve infrastructure, global companies often find that they must build their own systems and employ creative solutions. Many emerging market economies are still dominated by family-owned rather than publicly owned businesses. These family-owned firms operate in industries ranging from banking to construction to manufacturing, and they control the majority of economic activity and employment. In India, they're called business houses, and in Mexico, grupos. In Mexico, business people are concerned that the Mexican economy is dominated by a small, powerful clique, which results in the lack of competition. However, some firms like Mexico's Cemex and India's Tata Group are well run and have become formidable global challengers. Tata capitalizes on its family conglomerate networks to enhance its position as government supplier in numerous business sectors. Family-owned businesses enjoy various competitive advantages in their home countries, such as government protection and support, extensive networks in various industries, superior market knowledge, and access to capital, which can make them either strong competitors or capable partners for global firms. Emerging markets possess numerous advantages that have fostered their rise. The presence of low-cost labor, knowledge workers, government support, low-cost capital, and powerful, highly networked conglomerates have helped make these countries formidable challengers in the global marketplace.